Perfect. Welcome back, everyone. So, if you've made it this far, I hope that this has been a really enjoyable journey for you. On Monday, we talked about why are we stuck in the daily grind, and we unpacked the reasons why people are generally stuck in the daily grind. Is because of fixed mindset, lack of accountability, and they don't persist, plus a whole bunch of other reasons. Yesterday, we spoke about the ideal life. What does the ideal lifestyle look like? And we acknowledged that it's not a one size fits all, and it's not a static thing. It's not something that's fixed. It's something that's constantly changing. Okay. And it changes from person to person, from our stage of life, and so forth. So it's a thing that's constantly changing. Today, we're going to unpack how we can bridge the gap. Okay. And this is of the 3 days, this is probably the most exciting. This is probably the most important because we can start to talk about strategies from how we get to where from how we to how we get to where we want to go from where we are now. So from where we are now, how we can get to where we want to go. So before we move on, actually, Paul, I want to ask you something. Have you tried to change your life? Have you tried different things to get to the lifestyle that you want or not? Like, what's your experience with that?
Um, yes and no, really. Certain um certain aspects of I've done, I guess, to some extent.
Hmm.
Um, but then there's yeah, certain things that uh some of it's out of my control, and other things, I guess, that are in kind of are still there. So to some extent, yeah, like I have um yeah, have changed certain things, but not like a total 360 or something like that. Because yeah,
Yep, perfect. And so this is the first step, okay? Now, it's very easy to get overwhelmed, okay? It's very easy to think, I'm here, I'm here, I want to get here. I I I I don't know how I can do that, so I'm not even going to try. The first step is to understand that yes, you can do it. 100%. You can get from where you are to where you want to be. All right. The second step is to understand that it's done with marginal gains. What that means is you don't wake up one day and you're there. What that means is that you work on it 1% a day. All right. You work on it bit by bit by bit by bit. And then one day you're there. You wake up and you go, shit, I can't believe I've made that. Wow. Okay, cool. But the irony is by the time you're there, it's not so much of, oh my God, I finally achieved my goal. It's when you're there, it's like, I feel good. You just wake up and you feel good. Okay. So the other thing to recognize is that while it's important to have time frames to achieve goals, it's not necessarily that important to have a time frame to achieve happiness. Okay, because if we start putting a time frame for a life infused with happiness, for that inner peace, that puts a lot of pressure on ourselves. And the irony is that if we don't get it by that time, we can feel like a failure. Okay, the other irony of that is that just starting on the journey, just starting on the process to move towards that lifestyle starts that sense of peace. Okay. Knowing that you're taking actionable steps, real, actionable, tangible steps to move towards the life that you desire already starts to bring peace with it. Life is challenging. There is no doubt about it. Sometimes life is so fucked up, we can wake up in the morning and even go, why the hell am I here? All right. That happens with everything. Even in your ideal lifestyle, sometimes you will wake up and go, why am I here? Why am I doing this? All right. Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan is. Have you ever heard of Carl Sagan, Paul? You know who Carl Sagan is? No. So Carl Sagan, he is. He's one of the greatest scientists in history, in human history. He wrote a documentary series called Cosmos, and it's all about the universe, our place in the universe, how the universe evolved, where it came from, how we evolved. And in it, he so eloquently says that we are the universe experiencing itself. We are the universe experiencing itself. I mean, really think about that. We are the universe experiencing itself. Okay. Why is that so profound? Because it really forces us to ask ourselves, is there more than what I see in the mirror? Is there more to what I think life should be? Okay. And when we start asking ourselves those questions, it's very easy to wake up and go, why am I here? What's the point of this? Okay. Now, this is where that sense of peace is really powerful because you understand when you have that sense of peace, you understand that those questions are not meant to put us into a state of depression. It's not meant to, they're not meant to put us into a state, well, why even try? It's meant to challenge us. They're meant to, we're meant to ask those questions because it's, why am I here? Why am I here? Why am I here? Hmm. When you start that introspective journey, you start to dig deep and question who you are. Questioning who you are at a fundamental level, what your values are, what makes you you, is paramount to moving into your lifestyle. Because as I said yesterday, the people who have the lifestyle they desire, they know their why. And this is part of understanding your why. So part of the journey, in fact, perhaps the most important part of the journey from getting where you are now to getting to where you want to be is to unpack the why. And we started flowing on this from yesterday. If you remember, Paul, we started talking about the why, and why having that purpose is so powerful. Now, there's two elements to this. All right. The first part of the why generally comes from our life experience. Tony Robbins, his mission is to feed people. This is he actually got into his mission as a coach and trainer because his mother was very poor, very socioeconomic climate, um, uh, part of society, to the point where they couldn't she couldn't afford a Thanksgiving meal. His father was very abusive, and as well, his mother sometimes as well was quite abusive, but that was just the nature of their relationship. But she would starve. Like she wouldn't be they wouldn't be able to bring food to the table. And there was a Thanksgiving where they didn't have any food at the table. And there was a knock at the door, and the person who knocked at the door offered them a meal, said, "Here, we want you to have this." And he remembers the joy in his mother's eyes when she found that they were able to have a nice Thanksgiving meal, and how that made him feel. And that was the moment that he actually decided to give the gift of food to the world. And so that was part of the environment, his experience shaping his mission, shaping his why. Okay. Now, that in and of itself is not the only reason. Okay. Because there is also character, there's also a sense of accountability. And what's also really, really important, a really powerful part of this is to know that you have a why, is to know that you have a purpose. You might not know what it is. You don't have to know what it is, but the first step is to know that you have a why. Okay. When you know that you have a why, but you don't know what it is, you start the process of self exploration. What do you value? What lights you up? Okay. Experimentation forms a huge part of this. It might involve traveling for a little bit, exploring different cultures, trying different things, trying different sports, trying to work in different communities. You know what your why is, but then you start the exploration process. When you find something that you love, for example, someone might love building things. Okay, they might be really good with their hands and they might love building things. Okay, they've got a very creative things, and that's what gives them joy. And so they find communities, they find people that resonate with that. They learn about that. They will finally find their why. My purpose is to build things. Okay. When you have that, your lifestyle, it starts to adapt to your why. This is why knowing what our purpose is so important. This is why, and I hear this very often, I just want to lose 20 kilos. Okay, why do you want to lose 20 kilos? Ah, because I do. Because I'm fat. Okay, all right. You've lost 20 kilos and then what? You know that 90% of people who lose weight without a purpose end up putting it back on. Because what happens is you lose the 20 kilos and then what? What's next? Okay. When you have your why, and when your why is so profound that you know it's going to make an impact, the losing weight becomes part of the mission. You don't lose weight for the sake of losing weight. You lose weight because that's what that's what moves you into the person that you need to be in order to to fulfill your why. Okay? And so this is really tying in when you're in the daily grind, when you're stuck in life now, and when you have that lifestyle that you want, you've got to ask yourself why. Why do you want that? Because at the end of the day, the lifestyle is not the goal. The lifestyle supports the goal, supports you, supports your why. Does this make sense or not? You tell me. Yeah, how are you feeling about this? What are you thinking about this, Paul?
Yeah, like I think this because there's like life's complex and there's so many different layers and levels and all the rest of it. So I think you've got your home life, if you will, whatever that is. You've got your work life, maybe social life, whatever. And yeah, I think to gel all that together isn't as straightforward. Um, because there's more, what's the word, like there's more barriers and different barriers, but in each environment. And then you've got yourself, of course. So um, yeah, for example, like for work, like I think I mentioned, it's not that I hate my job, but it's not like the dream thing ultimate. So it's there's barriers within that, and unless you're prepared to step out of it, but it's not always really because you got to be realistic as well. Like not that I would want to be, but I might want to be a brain surgeon. Now, that could be my ideal lifestyle, but that you could have that, but there's certain obviously steps you need to take, but at the end of the day, you'd have to have some degree to to make those steps happen and have the capacity to make those steps happen. So
Yeah.
if that makes sense, like I think there's like a lot of sub areas
Yep.
if you talk about yeah,
So what you're talking about is the how.
yeah,
Okay. All right. This is and once again, this is part of the reprogramming that we've got to do from get to wet from where we are now to where we want to be is it's not the how sorts the why. It's when you know your why, the how sorts itself out. You don't actually need to know how you're going to get there. It actually sorts itself out, like literally. All right. So if you want to, like you mentioned, a brain surgeon, okay? Why would you want to be a brain surgeon?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm
I
using
get I
that.
get it. It's not
Yeah,
probably not something that you want to do,
I,
but
I
what
was,
would be the purpose?
yeah. So I guess I was only using that as the complexity. So like, obviously, if you want to be something else, like I don't know, whatever, like a trumpet or something, but there's different challenges I get, and also certain people just simply cannot, for whatever reason, necessarily be a brain surgeon. So I was just using that, and I guess like if someone would want to be like, it's not my dream lifestyle and all that, but I guess if someone was, it would be to save lives. I'd have an interest of the physical brain and all that sort of stuff.
Perfect. Now you're hitting it. So it's not to be a brain surgeon, it's to save lives. It's to make an impact in people's lives. They have a need to serve. So what ends up happening is if they have the capacity to be a brain surgeon, that just becomes a vehicle. That just becomes a tool because there's so many ways to impact on people's lives. Okay? You can do it through art, you can do it through music, you can do it through food, you can do it through just being a good person. You can do it through giving a helping hand. Like there are so many ways to do it. All right. And so what generally happens is we get too caught up in the how without really understanding the why. Most people don't even know why they do what they do in life. Okay. In fact, I can't remember if I've mentioned this. Maybe I have. The number one regret people have on their deathbed is living to other people's expectations. We're actually not taking control of our lives. We're doing what we've been taught to do. We're doing what we think is right for society. We're doing what we think we should do, not what we should actually do that's true to ourselves. Okay. And this is really important. It's so important. This is where the journey into yourself becomes paramount because at the end of the day, when you die, when that last breath that you have, wouldn't it be nice to look back and go, what, you know what? I gave it my all. I gave it my all. I lived. I lived. I didn't just exist. I lived. Okay. And I think our mortality, the fact that we are mortals, that we are going to die one day, that we are here for a limited amount of time, can be an incredible motivator for us to move into things that we're passionate about. Can be an incredible motivator for us to leave the world a better place than when we first got here. So what you'll find, I mean, this is why success is success. I mean, success is really it's really achieving something that you value for yourself. And fundamentally, and I've worked with a lot, I mean, I have worked with in my journey a wide range of people, including ex-prisoners, people in domestic violence, addiction, alcoholics, people that society would deem as scum. And I'm telling you now, they are not scum. They are beautiful, and their journey has allowed them to become versions of themselves they didn't think was possible. And through that, they have been able to make an impact on people's lives because of their experience. I have a client who was in prison for 9 years. I can't go into the details of why, but when he came out, he chose a different path because of his experience. He found his why because of his experience. And now he is making an impact on younger generations, positive impact. He is he is living the best version of himself. He's helping people who are down the path that he was to make better choices that align with them, not aligned with what their friends think they should be doing, but aligned with what they should be doing as an individual. Fundamentally, people are good. Okay. Fundamentally, people want to do the right thing. Okay. It might not always seem that way. And that's another reason why people get deterred from moving into their path because they think, well, the world's fucked. People are shit. Why the hell do I want to help a world that's going down the drain? Okay. The whole irony is that sort of mentality is what makes the world go down the drain. You know, we really do need to step up and realize that we have a purpose and we can use that purpose to lift the world, to lift humanity by lifting ourselves. There was there's a saying that I actually had another client come up with, which is really powerful. If you're gonna suffer, suffer with purpose. It's kind of like a version of choose your hard, right? So choose your hard. If you're gonna suffer, suffer with purpose. Suffer with a purpose that at the end of your life, you know you've done right. You've done right by you, you've done right by the world, and even if you've just planted a seed, you have left the world in a better space when you're dead than when you were born. And all of this mindset shift, this shift in mentality is part of the journey, is a profound part of the journey from getting where you are now to where you want to be. Because all of the sudden you realize that you don't have to make grand gestures. You don't have to fucking make Tesla. You can do lots of little things. You can do little things to make an impact in your local community or to your family. And that's good enough. That is good enough if that is who you are. That is success. That is huge success. And you can have a lifestyle that aligns with that. You don't have to have the ice baths. You don't have to have go to the gym every day. You don't have to do the fasting. You don't have to do that. What you have to do is live a life aligned with you, genuinely you. And that's going to look different for everyone. And this is part of the journey. Part of the journey is realizing that you're going to learn some wonderful tools to get from where you are to where you want to be. You're going to experiment. You're going to fail, which is really a lesson learned. And you're going to succeed. And you keep what works and you discard what doesn't. And this is where perseverance comes in. Part of moving from where you are now to where you want to be is understanding that there are obstacles and you need to persevere through those obstacles. I'm just checking in again because I know I can go on and on and on and it can be a lot to take in. How are you finding this, Paul? Is this resonating with you? What do you think? Add anything. Please feel free to add things if anything else is coming to your mind.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I look back, I look where I've come from to where I am now, and it's almost on a almost subconscious, but partly conscious. I mean, because I mean I've got a passion just as tech as a whole. Um, Not great talking to people necessarily face to face all the time, but over the phone I'm fine. Face to face can be all right. But like I look from where I've come and it's like it's already been I kind of can't really see I look back where I'm at now. For example, like if there was no but it's yeah, if there's no what do you call it, like progress or no trying to get in and sometimes like your direction changes a bit as well on the way. But yeah, like for example, if there's no progress and it's no disrespect to people who do it, but like if I stayed doing warehousing and I'm still doing that now, it would be there's no progress. But um, so I guess where I'm at now, even though I'm finding it, challenging, especially with a lot of changes and stuff going on and trying to take in new stuff and all that. At the end of the day, I have made closer alignment, but I wouldn't say 100. And I don't know. Like I think maybe you may not ever be 100%. You might get close, but you might whatever. But I mean, there's been active steps I've done to get to where I am now. I mean, when I was switching jobs and stuff like that, I could just look for anything, but I actually started with the skill set I had. I'd started holing in, hence why ended up starting warehouse, but video surveillance equipment like. So it's not 100% where my whole passion is, but and then once you get there, the grass isn't always as green. Not that it's not, but it's not always as green as you think it is because um, you know, I guess there's purpose at the moment as far as work and stuff is that I'm helping people when I resolve whatever issue. I might not resolve everything, but I'm helping people in that sense. And so and it's in line with even though it's not the necessarily the exact tech that I'm into, it's still tech in a way. So it's kind of like it's line, but then it's like then you've got deadlines and you've got things to meet, which doesn't always sit well with me. And also the other thing that's kind of missing from all this is that I like a creative aspect as well. Hence, when I was doing the video editing, it kind of I could put my own creative twist on it. And I work better doing that sort of stuff without a complete. If there's a deadline, I'm the one putting the deadline on. But at the moment, it's like if you look at my why, I guess would be two out of maybe three or four has been catered for, but then there's a bigger spectrum. So it's like, yeah, I guess like if we just work, it's just like, do I accept that? Is that going to be, am I going to be okay with that? Or is it, do I want to reach out to go closer to try to cover everything? So
Can I answer that for you?
yeah,
All right. I don't think you're satisfied where you are. I think it's in the right direction from what you're saying. And I think it sounds like you're on a path that's aligning with what you want. It doesn't sound like it's completely satisfying what you want. It sounds like it's still part of the journey. And this is wonderful. This is wonderful. And I really like what you said about the creative aspect because what you're doing now, it's not really creative. It's creative in the sense that you're doing tech support and you've got to think out, you've got to do that. But it sounds like you really want to tap into that creative right brain. You really want to come up with ideas and express those ideas. And it also sounds like you want to be independent. It sounds like you want to be in control. You want to be in charge and you haven't got that. And it sounds like those are the two things you're talking about. So the fact that you're still questioning and you're still saying these boxes are unticked, no, it's good enough. It's good enough, but it's not what you want if you're being honest with yourself. Okay. Now, I want to invite you, Paul. I want to invite you to get uncomfortable. I want to invite you to take a leap of faith in yourself and start doing something, even on the side, that does tick those boxes. And part of the journey, this was written in the psychology of money. Did I talk about the psychology of money yesterday or the day before? No. Okay. So in the psychology of money, the whole purpose of the book is to really get us comfortable, is to really get the reader comfortable with the idea that money is not a bad thing. Money is a very beautiful thing, and it's okay to want wealth. It's okay to want money because really, money abundance is a reflection. Abundance in the real world is really a reflection of the abundance within us. Okay, so when we have in the material world, it's a reflection of what we have within us. Now, as I said, it amplifies. So if you're a dickhead, if you're a shit person, you're just a shit person with a lot of money. All right. And if you're a good person, then you're a good person with that lot of money. But even shit people with a lot of money have that abundance. They know that they're worth that. And that's why they create that. All right. So this is not about good or bad. It's about what you value within yourself. Now, in the book, The Psychology of Money, the author says that nothing comes for free. There is a price to pay for everything. And while we are paying the price, it can seem really high. The price can seem really high. Okay. It can be torturous sometimes. But what happens is that price that we pay is actually so small compared to the reward that we get. All right. Now, the price isn't always with money. So to get to the lifestyle that we are now, to the one that we want, there will be a price. There has to be a price. The price can be time. The price can be suffering, can be pain. The price can be relationships. The price can be losing friends. Okay. But if we are genuine in our path, if we are genuine in moving in towards our mission, our purpose, we pay that price gladly because we know that the reward that we get is going to far exceed the price that we pay. In fact, in order to get what we want, we have to align with the vision. There are going to be things, and also the fact that we're not there yet means that what we have is not aligned with that. And so we need to sacrifice. We need to remove the things that aren't aligned with what we want so that we can attract the things that are aligned with what we want. And I talk about this with a lot of my clients. I tell them that relationship wasn't serving you. That relationship has now ended, or that friend has now left, or you have walked away. What you are doing is you're not walking away from the relationship, or that person is not walking away from you. What you're doing is you're inviting someone else in that aligns with this version of you. And this is really profound. This is really, really powerful stuff. Do you know who Joe Rogan is, Paul?
I think so.
So Joe Rogan, he's a podcaster. He's got one of the biggest podcasts in the world, and he basically started he's a comedian. He's a comedian. He ended up with the Joe Rogan Experience. He's interviewed like thousands of people from different walks of life. He actually started it because he likes MMA. He's all about MMA, and he wanted to interview MMA fighters. But then he started interviewing politicians and scientists and actors and singers, and like he interviewed Elon Musk and Donald Trump before they were going on the president. He's interviewed Robert Downey Jr. He's interviewed like so many people. Anyway,
I
he
could be
talks
wrong, but
about.
it's a bit controversial, isn't he? Or not?
Yeah, he is. He is a bit
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
controversial. Yeah,
yeah. Or people look at him sometimes, depending which side you sit. I've
yeah,
heard,
yeah.
yeah.
So he actually tries to be quite impartial. Like he wants just to get to the truth. Unfortunately, truth is subjective. Not everyone resonates with a version of truth, and that's where a lot of controversy comes. But he will actually get people from opposing views and talk with them and really try and understand their perspective. It's actually really quite powerful when you kind of open up to it. But what he talks about is he talks about uh, the energy of the space. He talks about how it's really important that we allow things into our space that resonate with us. This is the reason. So what happened was in this instance, he actually interviewed Donald Trump, and you can actually watch the interview. It goes for like 3 hours. But he also wanted to interview oh, I can't remember her name, but the leader of the Democrats at the time. And the Democrats actually agreed to interview, but they didn't want to interview it in his space. They wanted him to interview her. I think it might have been in Washington and limiting it to 45 minutes. And he said no, he didn't want to do that. The reason he said no was because he said that this space is what makes us us. It's what makes me me. There's energy in this space. Why would he want to remove the space that makes the Joe Rogan Experience what it is? Why would he want to sacrifice that so that he could interview the leader of the Democrats? All right. And this is an example of making sure that you attract things that align with you. Okay. And sometimes we do need to let those people go that no longer align with us so that we can attract. And this is a really powerful reason. This is actually one of the most powerful showstoppers from people moving into the life that they want because they're so scared of what they're going to lose. The fact is, you are going to lose something. There is a sacrifice but that sacrifice is an investment. Think of it like an investment. It's a fee that you're paying for success. That's all it is. And when we can lean into that, when we can step into that, the universe, whatever you want to call it, there is a consciousness, there is something in the universe, there is something there. It opens doors for us. It opens up. Something happens. When that shift in mindset happens, things align. And you will hear this over and over again from people who have made it. They didn't even know what they were doing half the time. They leaned in and things came their way. A lot of the time, it's like you're in a dream and you don't, it's kind of like you're even on autopilot. I know because I experienced this myself. Sometimes I look back and go, shit, how the fuck did I get here? But I know that I'm happy and I know that I'm where I want to be right now. completely where I want to be. There's still a lot of work to be done, but I'm so satisfied on the journey and I feel good all the time, even when life sucks. And so embrace the payment, embrace the fee. And for you, Paul, part of that embracing the fee is moving into that discomfort and maybe doing something on the side and maybe exploring that creative part of you, doing things on your own term and being okay to not get it right. And when it goes right, to keep that system, to keep that thing that's right, and to try something else to compound on that. So you slowly move into the man that you desire to be. And then what happens is your lifestyle starts to align with that. Your lifestyle is really part of the how. I want that. How do I get that? So, for example, you work in tech. All right. Let's say you do, and I'm just putting it out there as an example, just something for you to think about. Let's say you do a side hustle that, whatever it is that engages videography or creativity, and you're doing your own thing. Part of that sacrifice might be working for two jobs and might be working longer hours than you're used to. And you might need to persevere at that for like maybe a year or so, just hypothetically speaking. All right. Now, in order for you to do that, what does that mean? That means that you're probably going to feel a little bit more tired. Okay. So, okay, you feel a little bit more tired. How can you work with that? Okay, that might mean, you know what? Fuck it. I am going to do an ice bath because I know that ice bath, and I might even incorporate a bit of breath work because I know that ice baths and breath work give me energy and can give me the focus that I need to persevere this. So, once again, that is not the goal. The goal is not the ice or the breathing. That's part of the how to get to where you want to be. All right. You might learn, you know what? I need to keep my body strong, so that way I can stay happy because we know that movement is associated with happiness. They're both part of the left brain. Okay. And so you incorporate a little bit of exercise. Okay. Not because you want a good body, but because it supports your ambitions, it supports your goal. So you see what's happening here. You've got your why and your lifestyle is starting to sort itself out. You've got your why and the how is starting to sort itself out. How do you feel about that? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, um, I think like I've put a lot of focus on work and stuff, and I guess the outside work as well, 'cause it's all kind of interlinked as well. Um, like I don't, apart from immediate, like my family, married, and all that stuff. I don't have a big social network or friends and things like, but I'm okay with that. I'm actually okay in my own headspace a lot. Because it's just me. But I guess like you even said, like probably where I'm at with work, for example, it's like it's partly there, but it's not fully there. Like there's bits missing and things like that. But and then when you got stress, but I think there's good stress and bad stress. So I think um, if it's I mean it felt like bad stress at the time, but for me, like when I was doing the editing and I was not happy or I had technicalities where equipment went wrong and I had to work around to get this thing sorted, all that stuff. It seemed like my like everything just falling down, but that's a different stress to someone else telling you you need to resolve this or why isn't this resolved? And that pressure to get it resolved, but it's not in your own time to
Mm.
start with, and it's also someone else telling you that you need to resolve this. So, but then socially, as I said, like I don't have a big friends group or anything like that, or really regular mates I hang out with. I'm okay with that, but I guess then in line with stress with work and just within myself and all the rest of it, and as a whole, not fully being even content, I guess you would say, then it affects other aspects of your life, like relationships with wife and immediate family and stuff like that. So I guess the whole ideal lifestyle, yes, I think work is a massive part because you're there more than you are at home at the end of the day. But then at the same time, the perfect lifestyle would be at peace with myself and have a decent relationship outside of that as well. Because if it's just about, I mean, there's entrepreneurs, CEOs, not CEO, but, mega bosses and stuff. I'm a bit tired,
Mhm.
but
Yep.
um, what I'm trying to say is there's people out there that that's all their life is. It's just work. And I mean, even my father to some extent is a bit of a workaholic, but then I need that more balance.
Mhm.
Um, but I feel because I'm getting stress from work, then that has a dominoes effect. But I also have issues within immediate relations.
And so this is actually tying in to what you were saying before, because what you were saying before was you want to do something creative, you want to be your own boss. When you're your own boss, you set your own hours. And so that would tie into your ideal lifestyle because then yeah, you can go home, you can choose, you know what? I want to spend more time with my kids, I want to spend more time with my wife. And that's fantastic. We need to have that. Now, it's more about integration than balance because when we talk about balance, when we say balance, when balance is basically when we give to one, the other thing kind of goes down. So what we're trying to do is it's a constant balance. What we want to do is we want to bring integration into it. And that happens when we start to realize that yeah, we want to earn, we want to work, all right, but we want to make sure that we work in a way that supports our life, not that inhibits it. Same with our relationship. We want our relationship to be in a way that supports our life, not that inhibits it. Okay. And so that might mean, and this is where your values comes in. This is where your values is so important. That might mean, for example, let's say that you own a company and let's say that you've got $1 million deal happening. Okay. Just hypothetically. And let's say that you get a message from your wife or your partner saying your son or your daughter, um, they've gone to hospital. All right. They've gone to hospital and it's nothing serious. They're okay, but they want you to be there. They want you to be by their side because they're scared. They're really, really scared. Okay. How do we choose? How do we choose if we say no because I want to finish, I want to make this $1 million deal, or no to the deal so that we can say yes to our child? How do we make that choice? How do you think we would make that choice?
Um, well, it's split between logical and emotion to start with. Um, and I guess depending, like you could probably work out a compromise somewhere. Um, yeah, it's hard to say without the finer details. I mean, it could be that if they'd been rushed to hospital, maybe you finish off the $1 million deal, then you go like it would be an hour or two, if it's not critical.
Hmm.
Um, but if it was a situation where you had to, you didn't have that choice, like you either go one or the other. I guess it would be like, what are you going to live with after? Like,
Yes,
basically,
that's it.
like,
And you've hit the nail in the head. You've hit the nail in the head. What do you do so that you can sleep at night? That's spot on. All right. And this is where your values tie in. This is where your values come in. So if if you value your relationship with your son or your daughter or your child more than the $1 million deal, then you'll go to the hospital. You'll explain to them, look, I've got to go. Can we finish up? If they say no, okay, that's fine. No worries. You're happy to pay the price to spend that time with your son, with your child. Okay. And then maybe, you know, they will, you'll tell them, you know what, this is how much I love you. I want to tell you this story because this is how much I love you. And it might even strengthen the bond. Okay. Now, on the flip side, if you know that the $1 million meal deal is what you value more than going to the hospital to your son because you value money more than family. And this is not about right or wrong. This is we want to make one thing clear. This is not about right or wrong. It's exactly what you said, Paul. It's about what makes you sleep at night. Okay. Then stay and do the deal. You might be able to make amends with your child. You might be able to explain things to them. They might be able to understand. But at the end of the day, you got to do what's right by you. Okay. And
It could
and
be two ways of looking at it too. Like one way we could like a lot of people would sort of turn around if you chose the deal, would go, what a lousy parent, whatever, all this sort of stuff and blah blah blah. But then another way of looking at it, and again, it's not right or wrong, but another way could be, okay, I'm not there for him right this moment, but I know he's okay. And by doing this, it's going to have a huge impact for the rest of his life, as opposed to just being there for an hour or two in this situation. So there's multiple ways of looking at it.
exactly, exactly. And so the point of all of this is there's no right or wrong way. It comes back to what do you value. And this is why introspection, this is why really working on yourself is so important to moving into that lifestyle because a lot of the time we are driven by our instincts. Yes, we do have a logical mind, but we do primarily, our why generally starts with a feeling. Okay. It's like, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing this. I feel good when I help people. Okay. Your how is that's the instrumental part. That's instrument. So that's where the action comes in. That's the strategies, that's the planning, that's the how am I going to get from here to there? Okay, awesome. So that's where I explained to you about the goals, right? We go as we fall as low as the systems we have in place. Did I explain that? Yeah. Do you remember that? So 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 so
I think so. Like, it's not like the pyramid one that we looked at last night.
no. Okay. So basically our why our y is up here. All right. So let's say that we have our y. I'm just gonna write, I'll just write goal. We have our goal. Okay. And let's say that we have a system down here. Can you see the whiteboard? Yeah, perfect. Let's say that this is the system, or let's say that this is the bottom. Let's say we don't have any systems yet, and this is the start. Okay. Now, we can't move from here to our goal. We can't jump high enough to get to our goal. We only jump up to this high, right? Okay? All right. So what we need to do is we need to start putting systems in place. So let's say that we have let's say that this is T for time. So time goes this way. Can you see that? I've got an arrow pointing right, so that's time. All right. So what we do is we might learn a system here. Okay, so this is system number one. Now the bar has just risen. Okay, so S1. So now we're here. Okay, now we're here. Now we can jump a little bit higher, but still not high enough to get to our goal or our Y. All right. So what happens is we then need another system in place. So let's say over here we've got another system. So this would be S2, system number two, whatever that looks like. Okay. So now we can jump, but we're still not quite high enough to get to our Y. All right. So now we have another system, system three. Okay. Now, system three is bang, enough for us to get to our Y, to our goal. All right. So this is generally the process. Okay. Now, a lot of these systems come into place when life gets tough, when life gets really challenging. Okay. Because we know we want our goal, but we don't know how to get there. All right. And this is where the trial and error, this is where the sacrifice comes in. This is where we get tested. So with that example of the $1 million and the child, that could be looked at as a test. What do you value more? All right. And it could also be another test is, okay, I've got to make a choice. I don't want to have to make this choice again in the future. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it so that if this has again, I can close the deal and spend time with my family. And that might mean, you know what? I'm going to, I might hire someone. I might hire someone to help me, or I'm going to make a different choice to help me, or I'm going to go and see my son, but I'm going to talk with my partner and say, look, I value my family more than money, but I still want to close a deal. So next time this happens, um, I'm going to do something different. The point is that you start putting systems in place. All right. And that's what these opportunities allow us to do, because we can now see what we value, what we want, and we make it work. Like we will find a way to make it work. So when you're when especially Paul, when you were talking before about having the balance of the work and the family, and how one affects the other. 100% one affects the other. We take our family problems to work. We bring our work problems home. We cannot separate them. We try to separate them, but we still hold on to that baggage. All right. And so this is where we put systems in place that we can deal with that. Okay, so that we really can have the cake and eat it too. There is sacrifice to get there, but we really can have that. We really can have the lifestyle that we desire. Okay, trial and error, sacrifice. It's going to also mean, as I said, um, removing yourself from certain situations, losing friends potentially, but then that makes space for new things. With this $1 million deal and time with your son, all right, there is a sacrifice there, all right, but that sacrifice is a lesson so that you can do it, you can make a better choice in the future. This is how we evolve. This is how we learn. This is how we move into that lifestyle. And this is another reason why that lifestyle is forever changing, because we are constantly throwing new obstacles, new challenges that we have to pivot around, that we have to come up with ways to overcome. This is part of the journey. Part of the journey is to accept that that is part of the journey. Once again, I'm going to check in, make sure that it's not information overload. How are you finding this, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think in
By the way, I want to say I'm really glad that you're here, because it's giving me a chance to pause and just check in. So you're kind of the audience representative. So everyone who's watching this, let's just give Paul a quiet thanks for being here on your behalf. And by the way,
um
people will be watching this, because I've had messages from people apologizing that they can't be here. So
oh, true. Yeah, no pressure. No, I think the thing is, I think rare gets off for me anyway. Like as far as the ideal lifestyle and all that, it for career and work and stuff like that. Not that it's an easy path, but it's a more defined path where you you can make very clear sort of choices if you want it. And to some extent, I've done that today. Like as I said, like might not be where I wanted to head, but I've got there because I've sort of have made sort of, and it wasn't just one thing; it was multiple things. Like every as I got older, I kept on. It was more refined than I'm just leaving here because I've had enough, or it's starting to go. It started to go more. Well, I'm going to go here because it's more, I guess, as you would say, like in line to what I'm searching for. So, but with and I think too, there's obviously even with that, there's you got to work with what limitations are at hand. And when I say that, like if my ideal lifestyle is that I want to fly around like a bird all day, and you got the gravity of law to start with. So unless you invent something that you can fly, but naturally I'm not going to fly like a bird, for example. So you have to be real, I guess, aim for the stars, but be realistic while you're doing it. Because yeah,
Perfect.
but I think yeah, or for me anyway, as I was saying, like socially and with relationship and all that stuff, that's where it's more a complex matter. Like it can be defined and things like that. Um, but I think because it's that is on I guess it goes to a logical versus emotional state because relationship, interaction, whether that's you know, partner, wife, all that stuff, social groups, all that, it's still on an emotional level. Whereas work and career is very logical, very practical, and things like that. So that's why I think it's hard to focus on the other side of it as well when there's emotion, because you're dealing with emotional level as opposed to logical.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good point. Ironically, we do bring emotion and logic into both, but you're right, relationships do tend to be more emotional. Whereas at work, we do tend to shut that part off. I mean, it depends on what sort of work we do, but for the most part, we do tend to segregate work. We compartmentalize that part of our brain. It's like it's just work. I'm just here to earn money, and that this is and I think the really important there needs to be a really important distinction here because when we talk about feelings, we're not always talking about emotions. Okay. So, so feelings, as I said, we've got the transient emotions. Emotions will be things like your happiness, your joy, your sadness, your envy, your anger, frustration, euphoria, that sort of stuff. Those are emotions. Those emotions are primarily driven um, by serotonin, by dopamine, by cortisol, by different stress hormones or different hormones in our body, happy hormones or so so the ratio of those hormones in our body generally dictate our emotional state. That's why we can be in a really shitty mood for no apparent reason. Having inflammation in your thyroids, for example, can cause people to feel suicidal, like for no apparent reason other than a biochemical change in their body. All right. And when we talk about emotion, what's happening is we're making decisions based on biological changes. Okay. But when we're talking about feelings, like gut feelings, or this feels right, this doesn't feel right, that's not so much those transient emotions. That's more the underlying stuff. And that stuff we do bring to work and we do bring home. Okay. So when we're at home, for example, you're right, we do tend to be more emotional. It's like you're you come home from a shitty day at work, and you come home, hopefully to a loving partner that's there to support you, but the reason why that generally happens is because we bottle up our emotions at work. I mean, do you think that the normal person would go to their boss and vent and tell them, I don't like my work. I don't like what you said, or go to their workmate and say, you know what? I don't like that. I don't agree with that. Some people would, but most people are very agreeable at work. They shut that part of themselves off, so they don't have a choice but to vent when they get home because they're suppressing it at work. There's a certain way to act. And B, we're not supposed to be emotional at work. And this is part of how we've been indoctrinated as part of the Industrial Revolution. You know that the school system is based on the Industrial Revolution and designed for us to be obedient. It's designed for us to suppress certain emotions and to act a certain way. Yeah, I can see you're nodding, so you get it.
Yeah, I watched. That's anyway. On a side note, I watch a lot of documentaries, a lot of stuff on YouTube. I actually saw something very detailed on that, and it actually. Anyway, I won't go into all of it, but it was saying basically what you're just saying. Plus, it preps you to be school bell, and the setting is to prep you to be in an office or in a work environment. So when the bell rings, you go to this room, like in the office. You go to a meeting. That sort of yeah. So I'm just agreeing. Yeah,
Yeah,
what you're saying. There.
and our ancestors and the indigenous tribes and the indigenous people of the world, they actually don't live like that. They actually promote emotions. The elders, well, or the tribes, what they would do is they would intentionally allow fear into their ceremonies. That's why they have the dances around the fires with the animals, and they would expose the children to that so that they could learn to feel, so that they could learn that it's okay to fear, and they could learn that, even when you're afraid, you can be okay. You can control that fear. We don't have that much. We don't have much of that anymore. Right now, if you do something wrong, you're punished. Okay. And this is why at work we learn to shut those emotions off. And this is why at home, as I said, we switch that back on, but it comes back with a vengeance because we've been suppressing it all day. And so this is where the whole work-life balance thing really fails because what we're trying to do is balance non-emotion with emotion. But if we can learn to integrate the two, and this is why I say we do take the baggage home and we do take the baggage to work because we are who we are all the time. We're just in a different environment. We need to give ourselves permission to express ourselves no matter where we are and be okay with that. Okay. Even if someone might not like the way we act, it at the end of the day, a fundamental rule to live by, and this is something that the people who I've worked with and people who have taught me and trained me live by, is it doesn't matter how the message is received more than how the message is given. Okay, so if if you feel like you need to speak up, it's important to speak up, even if you feel like the other person might be offended by what you're going to say. This is not talking about being rude. There's another layer here which takes this out of proportion. Well, I'm just being authentic. I'm telling you what a dickhead you are because I'm just being authentic. No, fuck off. You're telling me what a dickhead you are, what a dickhead I am because you're a dick yourself. Like, fuck off. Call them out on their shit, right? But then that's part of it as well. Like, if someone is intentionally being mean to you and they say, no, I'm just telling you how I feel, I'm just being authentic. Well, are you really? You know, it sounds pretty hurtful what you're saying, and I don't really like that. So I'm wondering if maybe you don't like me, or there's something else going on. Like, call them out on their stuff. That's also part of you being authentic. It's not about being rude, it's about being honest. And it's about telling people, you know, calling them out on their shit, telling them how you feel. There's nothing wrong with that. In my own experience, many years ago, when I was working in corporate as an engineer, I I've always been very outspoken. Always. This is why I'm really good at what I do, because I seek truth in all its shapes, in all its forms, regardless. I actually I actually called out one of the managers in the like my direct manager at the time on some of the things he was doing, and I said no. I said, like, have we got a problem here? Like, I don't like what you're doing. I feel this. And after that conversation, there was a lot of respect. Like, there was like, shit, okay, all right. Because I called him out on that, our relationship actually changed. It became a lot more empowered. There was a lot more respect. He actually respected me a lot more after that. But that's what happens when we're authentic. Okay. To me, that was a test. I didn't see that as a failure. I didn't see that as an obstacle. I saw that as a test. I saw that as an opportunity for me to express myself authentically. And ironically, after doing that, there were so many good things that happened because I stepped into it, because I was authentic. And once again, I talk about the universal consciousness. I talk about the investment, like in the psychology of money, the price that we have to pay for the success. The price that we have to pay for the success sometimes involves having difficult conversations in environments that it's not normal to have difficult conversations, and to be okay with that. So this is what the game changers do. This is what people like Dave Asprey, world-renowned biohacker, does. They challenge the system. They challenge what's normal. They provide a new and refreshing alternative and perspective. Okay. And we need to do that because fundamentally, if we are living by a system that is indoctrinated into us and we're not going to challenge it, nothing's going to change. Nothing will change. It takes us, it takes the individual to step into their power, to embrace the discomfort and be and embody the change in order for change to happen. And this is how you move into that lifestyle. This is how you get the success. Because at the end of the day, successful people are successful because they are doing something different. They are doing something unique. They are expressing themselves genuinely, not in a demeaning way. They're not putting people down. They're not doing it to compare themselves to other people. They're doing it so that because they want to be able to sleep at night, because they know that they have a mission and they know that the choices they make has to align with who they are. Now, in order to be who they are, their lifestyle has to match it. Me, for example, in order for me to be the best coach, in order for me to be the best counselor, in order for me to be the best entrepreneur, to be the best at what I do, my lifestyle has to match that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do that. I've been here since 5 this morning. It's 10 past 8. I have so much energy. I feel fucking amazing. I feel amazing because I've got systems in place because my lifestyle matches my purpose. This is what we need to bring back. This is what we need. And Paul, I got to admit, like listening to you, like it sounds like you're there as well, or at least you're on that journey. I mean, I hear you talk. You seem like you're a really humble, modest guy. And like the fact that you're actually partaking in this conversation, you're thinking about you, you're thinking about what you want, you're really open-minded from the sounds of it. That's huge. I mean, so many people aren't there. You're actually being the example of what so many people can be. Like, how does that make you feel? What do you think about that?
Not always the case. Like, um, yeah, like I can, I guess like everyone, I've got two faces. Like in the sense that I'm being legit and what you see genuine is what you get. However, like I can be skeptical and I can be, as I said, like in general, I can focus on a lot of the glass been half empty sort of scenario and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't know, like outside this and that, like on a daily basis, if you will, in general, I for me, it sounds weird, but I barely exist, like within myself and life and stuff. Like I just, for me, it's just I don't look at myself much generally. Like I feel and experience stuff and have strong thoughts and certain stuff as well. But as far as existence, it's not until sort of have conversations and stuff like this that I start looking more inwards at myself, if that makes sense.
Mm, yeah. How do you feel as you're on that journey? Like, we're having a wonderful conversation right now. Like, I'm loving this. I hope you are too, by the way, Paul. How do you feel? How do you feel within yourself as part of the exploration that you're doing as part of this journey? Like, do you like what you see? Does it feel good? Or are you afraid? Are you scared of what you're going to find? What's it like for you? Because a lot of people
Um,
watching this will feel the same thing.
like normally on a day to day, not this conversation, on a normal day, I'd be probably I tend to like overthink a lot. And so it's probably going to be fearful in some aspects, worried about 10 things that haven't happened yet that could happen, sort of thing. And if not, it can be the opposite. It can be holding on to stuff that's been and gone, and nothing's going to change that, but you're still holding on to it. So I guess, yeah, my thing is it's apart from work and that we have to be in the moment because you're dealing with whatever you're doing at that time. But outside work and stuff, it's like I'm either too far forward but not necessarily productive, or I'm too far back. So yeah, on a general basis, sort of thing.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Um, that's actually you've hit the nail on the head once again, Paul. That's a common thing. That's a very common thing. And part of this is having the capacity, being able to train yourself to bring yourself back into the present moment. Eckhart Tolle. Have you ever read The Power of Now or heard of Eckhart Tolle? No? Okay. So Eckhart Tolle, his story is pretty amazing actually. He went through severe depression. Basically stuck in the grind, had no purpose in life. He attempted suicide. He tried to jump out of a second story building of his apartment. I can't remember. I don't know if I've told this story. I don't think I've shared this story with you. Anyway, as he was about to jump out, there was something that pulled him back, and he can't explain what it was, but it put him back, and he went unconscious. It was somewhere between 18 and 24 hours. He was unconscious, and when he woke up a different man. It's like something had awakened within him, and he could all of a sudden see the truth, like see universal truth. And it doesn't happen very often. I haven't heard of many stories of this, but it does happen sometimes where people have an experience and it's like, wow, I get it now. I really get it. Neil Donald Walsh, very similar experience, kind of like the Buddha, the Buddhist Buddha, Gautama Buddha had that experience when he was meditating under the tree. He had an instantaneous enlightenment. So it does happen. Don't think it happens very often though. Anyway, after that experience, Eckhart Tolle, he started teaching what he's learned, teaching his awakening to the world. And I mean, you can even YouTube him. You can. He's got podcasts. He travels the world now, and he wrote a book called The Power of Now. And in The Power of Now, he talks exactly about what you just mentioned, how most people stress about things that haven't even happened yet, or feel remorse or regret over things that have happened already and they can't change. And what he says is in his book is that in the present moment of now, which is really all there is, we don't have anything. We don't have the future. We don't have the past. They're just figments of our mind. Okay. We can be there in our mind, but it's not really here now. What we have is an eternal moment of now. And right now, there is really nothing happening that's causing us stress. There is really nothing right now that is causing us regret. And so we can actually train ourselves to come back to the now. And this is where mindfulness comes in. So a really powerful tool, and this is actually something that's really helpful to integrate into your life, is I mean, people talk about meditation. I think meditation is not for everyone, and you don't need to know how to meditate in order to come back into the present moment. Although there is a lot of power in meditation, and eventually you can train yourself to meditate. But the way to start is you get a texter, or you get a stone, or you get something that you can put in your hand, and you just close your eyes. So you just kind of close your eyes and just kind of connect with it. So just feel it, feel the grooves in your hand. You just feel the temperature of it. Then you might open your eyes and look at it, looking at the red, looking at the curves, looking at the grooves of whatever it is, looking at the reflections. What you're doing is you're connecting with the moment. This object, whatever it is helping you connect with the moment. Now, our brains, contrary to popular belief, it's actually not true. Our brains, we cannot multitask. All right. People are not designed to multitask. We can only ever focus on one thing at a time. Okay. It's the same thing with emotions and logic. We cannot be both emotional and logic. We are either logical or we are emotional because we can only focus on one thing at a time. This is inherent in our brains. We know this. People who say they can multitask are bullshitting you because they can't. What's actually happening is they're focusing on one thing, then quickly focusing on another, and another, and you actually get nothing done. That causes more stress than it's worth. So what you're doing when you're connecting with an object, when you're really embracing and really just observing it, you're moving out of time. You're coming back into the moment. And that is a really powerful way when you feel stressed or when you feel regret to move out of it, to come back into the eternal now. Now, you can actually train yourself to do that. What I normally recommend, and I'm actually going to recommend this for you, Paul, is spend 2 or 3 minutes a day. Considering how many minutes there are in a day, it's not a very long time. Spend 2 or 3 minutes a day just getting a rock or getting something and just connecting with it, just watching it, looking at the texture, looking at the colors, smell it. What does it smell like? Being mindful, being present. You can also do it while you're eating. If you don't want to do that, what you do is when you eat mindfully. So you put the food in your mouth, you chew it, you taste the different tastes, you feel the texture in your mouth. When you swallow, you feel how it goes down your throat. Like the point is to focus on something in the here and now. Okay. And that's what will help you to break the stress from the future and the regret from the past, which are just illusions. They're not real. Okay. Um, you can also do that at work as well. So if you do find that you're stressed at work, say you do have a deadline to meet, or say in your case your boss, which a lot of people would resonate with this because a lot of people are in the same boat, is to give yourself permission to take a few minutes away from the task just to be present on something, just to focus on something. Even if you go it's actually really important that you remove yourself from the environment. Okay. So that if you are at a desk or something and you can try and go to a breakout area or try and go to a different area and have a glass of water, maybe feel the water in your mouth as you swallow it, and then go back to your desk because you will feel better after that because you're not thinking about it anymore. In fact, there are studies now that show um, your efficiency goes up when you have a break every 45 minutes. And it doesn't have to be a long break. It can be a 2 or 3 minute break. But if you have a break every 45 minutes, your efficiency significantly goes up. I can't remember the exact number, but it's like by 30 or 40%. It's really big. It resets you. All right. I do this as part of my lifestyle. The reason why I have so much energy is because I'm not always doing the same thing over and over. I make sure that I have breaks. You want to include that into your lifestyle. Give yourself permission to have breaks. All right. But once again, you're not doing it for the sake of doing it, it's aligning with your purpose. In this case, your purpose in the moment might be to finish this task that has been set to you. You're taking a break because it's aligning with that purpose that you need to do by that time. Okay. So another really important part of the ideal lifestyle, of the lifestyle that you want, is to understand that it's not just a big thing. It's not like one lifestyle. You can actually break it up into different components and have kind of like mini styles, if you know what I mean, mini lifestyles. So when you're at work, you'll have a style for that. When you're at home, you'll have a style for that. But then you'll have an overarching one which kind of encompasses it all. So you can segregate it, you can break it down. Very, very important, very, very powerful, that sort of stuff. How are you feeling about this? Once again, just checking in. I know it's a lot of information. What are your thoughts around this, Paul? Add anything if you feel like you want to add anything as well.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like with the focus, I guess subconsciously almost do what you were mentioning before, even at work and stuff. It's like, um, yeah, like because I'm at a desk, but I've got like I don't know, like tools around sometimes, screwdriver, whatever. And I mean, I'll be on a call, but then if it's getting to me, I'll just, I won't intentionally focus. So I think I need to take it one step further, but I'll literally just fidget with this just to keep me sane while I'm on the call, because sometimes it's just like my brain is
Yep.
ticking, and it can be one or two things. It can be like the guy, on the other end has absolutely no idea, and it's just doing I'm trying to explain, it's not listening, and it's doing my patience. Or it can be, I'm just not, I don't know how I'm going to resolve this yet. Like I don't even know. It sounds funny. A lot of times with the stuff that comes through, it could be like a product that I've never dealt with. This is the first time I'm dealing with it remoting in, and it's really just sort of making it up as you go. And so, in some
Yep.
cases, other ones I'm sort of okay, I'm familiar with this, but yeah, just going back. But I think I'll probably outside work probably need to take it with the mindfulness, maybe do a bit more further than just fidget with something. And actually, focus on it. And yeah, the other thing too is that I've I don't I don't I'm lucky in one sense. Like I'm not micromanaged with a because it's spread it's national workflow and my there's actually multiple bosses I sort of deal with, but it's not like I'm micromanaged. It's not like someone on the down my back. But they do obviously monitor, calls and all that sort of stuff, how many and all that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But probably the more pressure is the installers that are calling up, because then it's like a dominoes effect. If it's not resolved, then it's going to escalate back to the sales rep, which is going to go back, and then before you know it, you'll get hit by someone, whoever, whether it's a sales rep or manager or whoever. Or the installers going off themselves and things. But yeah, anyway, I mean, I think, yeah, definitely I'll take away the mindfulness. I did sort of do it a little bit, but probably do it on and more outside work as well.
Yep.
th- yeah, and I don't know the weird on a side note too. The really weird thing is sometimes when I'm not at work, not at home, I kind of have these sort of weird routines that I kind of stick to. Like, you know, I, I'll go to the park before I start to work every day, and just like it's not healthy because I smoke. I'll have a coffee, have a cigarette, but also walk around the park. And
Mhm.
it's like that's my way fun to prep for the day. like it's like a routine, and if it gets shifted, it just puts me off. Like if something happens, it really puts me off. But it's funny because I'm probably the most motivated in that period, and it might just be 15, 20, even half an hour. Sometimes I'll sit there for half an hour, whatever. And I have all these great intentions, or these motivated stuff, like with work or even interests. I'll be like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go home and gonna go through all these YouTube. I'm gonna learn this stuff online as much as I can. I'm gonna, you know, I don't know, random like play around with this switch that I've got, like to learn the network and have all these great ideas. But until it's at until and when I get to work, then I'm just focused on what I need to do for it. And then when I get home again, all that energy, all that motivation, all that passion, all that I'm going to jump on, I'm just going to do it. It just dies,
It's
and then
gone.
it goes
Yep.
back to the
Yep.
yeah, and then it
Yep.
goes back to the next day. So yeah, it's
That's very common actually. I hear exactly what yours. Yeah, I know. I resonate with that myself actually. So what's happening is when you're doing that routine, by the way, fantastic. Well done. That's freaking powerful. I've got my own routine. People have their own routine, like successful. You have to have a routine. It gets you in the zone. It's where your creative juices start to flow. You're in a state of what we call flow. So flow is like when there's no effort, thoughts just come and you're just in the zone. Time stands still. Okay. So that's a very cognitive mental state. So that's where ideas come. What you do is you don't need to do it all because what happens is when things turn from mind to action, okay, it's actually harder to do tangible physical action than it is to think about the action, okay? And it uses more body energy. So what happens is, yes, you've got these ideas, but then you go to work and then shit happens and you've got these things and it's like, yeah, you're tired, okay? But what you do is you give yourself a challenge. You say, you know what? No, no, no. I love these ideas, but I'm just going to do one thing when I get home. And that might be, I know you said play on your discs. Like, what is one thing that you would like to do? What is one of the things that normally comes up?
um to I guess expand knowledge is for IT and as a whole.
Okay. So what
Yeah,
you do, yeah. So what you do then is you write it down. You say, look, when I get home, I'm going to learn this one thing. I'm gonna watch this one YouTube thing for half an hour, and then you do it. And this is the difference between motivation and discipline. Okay. So motivation, you can't rely on motivation. You have to rely on discipline. Discipline is doing something even when you don't feel like doing it. Okay. And so you train yourself to be disciplined when you come home to do that one thing. Because once you do it once, you'll feel better. Like you will feel better. It's like, yes, I've accomplished that. And then you do it again and again and again. And then eventually you can add a little bit to that. And once again, you know how we were talking about not making big changes, making small marginal changes? That's what you're doing. And 6 months from now, you're going to be doing all of these things because you've made these small changes over time. Okay. Now, we've got 4 minutes left. We are at the end of this webinar. But before we do finish up, I do want to just quickly talk about talk about this course that I run. So basically, everything that we have spoken about over the last 3 days, I unpack in immense detail over a 12-week course. Everyone who's watching this, including you, Paul, I'll send an email to the details about that if you're interested in taking life to the next level. If you're interested in taking that next step. Basically, it covers everything. So we dive into the science behind the things that we've spoken about, the science behind the ice baths, the breathings, our connection with the universe, how emotions are created, where emotions are stored, how we can control our thoughts, words, emotions, our actions, what we have in our control, what we don't have in our control, how we can influence the universe to manifest things. I actually talk about quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics is the bridge between spirituality and science. And so I talk about the science of spirituality, the science of manifestation. We can actually manifest, believe it or not. So, this course is actually being launched today. All right. So I did intentionally tie this actual webinar with the course. So I'll send a link, have a browse. If you're interested in it, go for it. Um, as I said, I will be running this webinar every month. All right. So, Paul, you are welcome. And this will always be free. This webinar will always be free. Okay. I want an avenue where people can actually come and we can have these awesome conversations. All right. So, by all means, like if you can't afford the course, you don't have to do it. Keep coming to this because every webinar will be different. All right. I'm very organic. I don't really, I follow a little bit of structure, but for the most part, just going with the flow. Okay. And you'll find that most people who are successful, they will have structure and systems, but they also go with the flow as well. And I try to bring all of that into here. Okay. So every month will be it'll go with the same structure in the sense that we do talk about the daily grind, the ideal lifestyle, and how to get from the daily grind to the ideal lifestyle. So that will stay the same, but the content will be different. Okay, so I want to invite you to come back, Paul, next month. You're in my email list now, so you'll be informed. Hopefully there'll be other people that come as well. In fact, I'm sure there will be. And how did you find this, Paul? What's your feedback on this?
Yeah, no, honestly, I found it good, and I wasn't what I was expecting, but then again, I didn't know what to expect. So, um, yeah, it's not a bad thing. Like, but yeah, no, I got a fair bit out of it. Because as I said, sometimes I can be a bit half yeah, half full sort of thing, and a bit skeptical as well sometimes. But no, this has been good. Yeah,
Thank you again for coming, Paul. That's really powerful stuff. So thank you for sharing that. All right, look, we will end it there. To the viewers, thank you for watching. Now, on the email that I sent to you, you can get access to my website as well, alexrodriguez.com.au. Feel free to get in contact with me as well. I've got my contact details are there as well. Feel free to get in contact. If you want to book in a session, you're welcome to book in a session. We can unpack life. We can do one-on-ones. We can do all sorts of stuff. Um, so, with all of that being said, once again, thank you for tuning in. I hope I see you all again next month and have a wonderful month.
thanks a lot.
All right. See you guys.
Bye for
Bye.
now.
Bye, Paul.